Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in. I'm your instructor Joy. Thank you very much for your continued support. I really appreciate. So today we're going to talk about scales, or very first, most popular, overly used scale book, Hrimaly, which was also my very first scale book as a child. And I had this gray cover looking, very boring looking, and I remember I felt like I just had to go through. I didn't necessarily enjoy it when practicing that one. And when I, in my studio with my students, even with advanced students, they have this concept of, scale book, very boring. Or even young students start practicing this Hrimaly scale book and being a little confused, not knowing which fingering patterns are for what keys and so on. Even though this book is very well made, I'll give you some tips how you should approach this one, so that way actual scale makes a sense to you, becomes easier, and also be a little more pleasant to practice, so that you can benefit from understanding different scales and theory as well. Because that's an also important part to understand music theory. Scales are not just to warm up our fingers or physical exercise, also very start of understanding the music, and later you will, when you have a level of playing Bach solo sonatas and so on, one has to have a greater understanding of a musical harmony and scales in all together. So now, when it comes to scale practicing, a lot of students feel like they have to use whole bows, even though that is a good one. Don't get me wrong. But if you are rather early stage of the violin learning, whether you're in the beginner level or early intermediate level, it's not necessarily a must to use always whole bow. And so I'm not the only one who think that way. Sevcik, one of the greater pedagogues, actually his book starts using only middle bow and then tip and then fra. The reason being is when you use whole bow, the arm and wrist, the finger joint, including the bow grip, constantly changes. Like this, fra, middle, and the tip. My bow grip has changed, my complete shape of elbow as well as height, and the height of the wrist and so on, that all has changed, which one should master. But if you or your student is somewhat earlier stage of this learning scales in general, we differentiate those parts. So starting in the middle bow would be good, and then you can practice scales only using middle bow, or only using that near the tip, or near the fra, so that you can master the proper bow arm as well as a left fingering. That's first thing. Second, starting a major, 1 octave major scale would be a good thing, which a lot of scale books suggest, which is a good idea. But before we just blindly start, let's understand every 1 octave scale there are 2 half steps. So with what means for us violinists means in 1 octave there's somewhere you have to place fingers together. This will be 1 half step. That's 1 half step. So within an octave meaning from note C to C or D to D, that's 1 octave. You should have a 2 half steps, where you have to place both fingers together. Then let's go to the back, to the book. Sorry, to the book of Hrimaly. So now Hrimaly starts his scale books with a C major, which has no sharps and no flats. It makes sense in music theory point of view. And if you are a pianist, there will be a right scale to start, because you're playing the easiest way using only white keys, not black keys. But for us violinists, if you play C major scale, the fingers patterns change all over, and you're using it just to play 2 octave scale, either 3 strings, or you have to use extended finger, which is a lot of things to cover as a beginner or early stage of student. Even though Hrimaly had a good intention, you should start practicing scales that's easy on the left hand, easy to master, and then find the similar fingering pattern or the same fingering pattern that goes with it. It's not always in the order of no sharp, 1 sharp, 2 sharp, and so on. So in that way, you start first D major scale, using only first, second, and third finger. The fingering patterns are like this. 1 and 2 are whole step, which is far away. 2 and 3 are half step. And then the next string on the A string would be same. So our half step, 2 half steps would be here and that one. And then you would do 1 octave scale on D major. Then you go, which has a 2 sharps, F sharp and C sharp, that was here and that one. Then instead of going to the next step, you would go to the similar or same fingering pattern, which is 1 octave A major scale. Exactly same thing, you just move over. Instead of playing D and A string, you would play now A and E string. Like this, A, open A, B, C sharp, F sharp, up and down. Now you already have 2 scales memorized. It's easy. 2 and 3 are close one on both strings. If you start from the note D, it's D major scale. If you start from note A, it's A major scale. Then now, this time we're gonna start including the pinky. We are gonna play A major scale again, but instead of starting from open A, we are going to start on the G string with the first finger, which is note A as well. Now, in this case, the half steps would be 3 and 4. Now we're introducing 4th finger. Here, the difference is, compared to earlier, 1, 2, and 3 are all whole steps far away, and 3 and 4 are the only one that's close. That's a good way of introducing 4th finger because pinky is short. You don't want to start with a stretched pinky, even though that's ultimately what we want. But as a first step, it's a good way to start where your pinky can be closer to other strong fingers. So A major scale would be great. So that would be on the G string, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, going up and down same way. Now exactly same fingering. When you go over, starting the same finger on the D string and A string, now it becomes E major scale. Now E major scale, starting note E, F sharp, G sharp, A, E, C sharp, and D. Now we learn the fingering pattern, 1, 2, 3 far away, and 4th finger being right close. When you start from note A, it's A major scale. When you start from note E, it's E major scale. Voila, we already have 4 scales by memory. Then now, the same fingering pattern, when you go half step down, it means the first finger goes away from you, closer to the nut, starting from A flat. Now it becomes A flat major scale. Not A, but A flat major scale. The fingering pattern is same as A major, which is 1, 2, 3 are far away, and 3 and 4 are close, A flat major scale. Then, like before, if you start now from D string, now we are playing E flat major scale. Then, if we start same thing, but this time starting on the A string with a note B flat, and playing 2 strings on the A and E string, now we're playing B flat major scale. Like that. You just mastered 4, 3, 7 scales at once in such a short time. All you have to remember is where the half steps are and group it together with the same fingering pattern. That way, actually it's easy to hear and easy to memorize. Once you've done memorize this much, then the next step with a complicated variation with a different fingering patterns will become a little easier because you've learned a certain pattern. For example, the next step would be G major 2 octave scale, where the second finger is beside a 3 on G and D string, but the second finger changes on the A and E string being beside 1. That would be the next step, and on and on. But before we move this different fingering pattern, changing from one string to the next, start with the same fingering pattern for each string or both strings, and then see if you can find those related, a similar fingering pattern, and expand your scale. That way, actually scale becomes a little more fun, easy to learn and easy to memorize. That way, when it comes to the next step, it's not so scary, not so boring anymore, but rather another fun thing to learn and practice. Yeah, I hope this you can try yourself, and I hope this video was helpful. Hope to see you again, and thank you for watching. Happy practicing. Bye bye.